Hello, this is Belligerent34 again. It's been a while since I made my last video. Just been playing the game, grinding out new stuff. Been playing with a lot of different people, learning some new stuff, and I'd like to share some of that stuff with you guys right now. The things I'm going to show you have to do with Dark Hours Raid. Just got a few builds to kind of give you guys some ideas, hopefully spark some ideas, and maybe make the game a little bit more enjoyable for you. So, the first one up is, pretty standard, all red DPS build. 3 pieces of Providence, gift. I really wish I could have got one that had like crit chance on it, so headshot damage, but it works just as well. Contractors, foxes. I've been having a lot of fun running the gunslinger paired with Regulus. It's just something satisfying about hitting those headshots and watching things blow up. Famas with Optimus. Talent could be kind of your preference. And then good old reliable, the classic M1A with boomerang on it. And your skills can be kind of switched up. Blinders work really well in Dark Hours. Decoy, definitely want a Reviver Hive. And then your modding, probably crit damage. The stats on this one, only because I dropped the gunslingers. I used to have it at like 50, 200, but that little bit of lack, makes up with the firepower from this thing. And this can be run pretty much all the way through. Your talents on your chest piece can be, you could run Overwatch in certain spots. Some spots, and I'll show you this, you can use Intimidate. Some people use Tamper-Proof, Obliterate. You could even run Perfect Glass Cannon. It's all up to you. Vigilance doesn't have to be perfect vigilance. It could just be regular vigilance. It doesn't have to be the gift. Just some thoughts. That's a pretty standard DPS build. Next up on the list, jammer build hasn't really changed much. 4 pieces of hardwire, skill damage, like everywhere. BTSU gloves. Wyvern with glass cannon, and you can mod protection from elites, armor on kill. Skill haste doesn't really matter too much because you're using hardware. You can even do repair skills because most of the time you're using the Reviver Hive or Restore Hive. And then you get your jammer pulse, radius, effect duration, healing. Just use test subject, Scorpio. You could keep concussion grenades or use your fire grenades to help out your Overwatch. These builds really haven't changed a whole lot, but there's some other stuff I'd like to show you. Negotiator Dilemma build. There's a couple different ways to build this, but one of your staples is definitely the backpack. The way I chose to build this is just all crit damage everywhere I can put it. Everywhere I can put it. All my mods, all my pieces. I'm running the Perfect Glass Cannon, Coyotes, and the Diamondback because the built-in guaranteed crits. But you need the backpack because it transfers whatever damage you're doing to the marked target 100%. And this is really good build on Boomer. It seems to be like one of the places where people really just use it in that one fight and not so much anywhere else. But there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with Negotiator's Dilemma. This is just something I chose to use. You don't really need the chest piece for Negotiators. If you don't want to run Coyotes, you could probably switch this to Fox's Prayers. It's a pretty good buff. You're going to be proccing the more than likely that 25 crit damage because of how close you're going to be to some of these ads. But this thing, it's really quirky to use, but it hits like a truck. And I rock the Grudge because I use Shock Trap, Riot Foam. You know, ads don't make it too far out of the door, especially if you're working with a good partner, depending where you're at. And, you know, like the card just for that extra skill tier. But, you know, this is just one way to run it. And then, moving on. This is what I use when I'm kiting Boomer. What I would do is I would coordinate with whoever your other tank is and make sure that they're not running something similar. But typically you'll have, you know, like a red kiter. You could do somebody with like a red future initiative too. But one of you should definitely have opportunistic, if not the perfect opportunistic. I run a red Vanguard, mini shield. Use the Scorpio for doubling Boomer down. Use this just to kind of shoot his chest and stuff. And you know, it's got pretty good stats on it. And that's just with the Scorpio. You can see the assault rifle is just as well. But this is a pretty good build. That's, you know, a little bit of survivability, damage, helps the team out, double down with Boomer. That's pretty much the only spot I would run it. Now, let's see this one. This can be, this is like a Razorback build. It can be on a plate or Overwatch. It's probably easier to run it on a plate. The way I set this up is, you know, the Gunslinger and your D50 are your core pieces here. Talent on the D50 isn't so important. You know, things like Optimist might help it do a little bit more damage, but with the way this is going, you know, I like this finisher because if you get caught out somewhere, shoot an ad, you can proc that buff. But it's not super important. You know, I use, you know, the rifle just to be, because you're going to have to cover some ground doing Overwatch most of the time. And the Ravenous. So the Ravenous, the Gunslinger, and the D50 are the three main pieces. Now the rest is just trying to figure out how to get your damage up there, right? Punch Drunk. You know, you're stacking some headshots, glass cannon, you know, foxes, and just the three pieces of Providence and Vigilance. And then there's the Ravi trick. If you're not a Ravenous stack, you know, 5 left, 1 right, 5 left, 1 right. If you can do it really quick, you swap to your D50 with this thing fully charged. You can knock that weak point out, if not take a serious chunk out of it. There are some spots on Razorback that you can shoot to kind of just keep that buff stacked, and then when you can actually do damage, you just turn over and boom, one shot, done. But blinders, they work really well whether you're on plates or Overwatch. You know, for Razorback, it just shuts those guys down. They stop kind of moving. They don't shoot at you when they're blind. It's very helpful. And a Reviver just in case something happens. The Demolitionist just because like you can take one, you can eat one of those mortar rounds and live, and then the second one, you know, it might end up killing you though with glass cannon. So you just gotta be careful where you're sitting. You know the safe spots. And let's see. Now this one, this build, not a lot of people really care to use Intimidate too much, so it's sort of a niche build, and the best places for this are on the triplets and Buddy and Lucy. Now for this to work, you definitely have to have somebody in your group, just one person, proc Vanguard. This is definitely a close quarters, like up in their face kind of fight. You know, 3 pieces of Providence. You gotta have Intimidate, Vigilance. You know, use your Contractors, Foxes, and like I said, I'm just rocking this because you're gonna be proccing this for everybody at 25% crit damage. Now, in sync, right? It works really strong with this. You just have to put your turret somewhere, like on that, just like lamps or something on the triplets fight, Weasel fight, Dizzy and Ricochet side. Put it up high, it'll be out, long enough to keep this going. You can choose to, start shooting it with the Scorpio just to stack that buff on there, and then turn to your, 612 with Insync just to finish them off. Meanwhile, you'll have that bonus armor, and it'll be stacked. By the time you end up killing one of them, Vanguard will usually be up again for round 2 to kill the second guy and work on Weasel. So this is a really solid build. The only problem is you need to have most of your team running something similar to this for it to kind of work in synergy. But when it's working, man, it's a beautiful thing. Kill those second bosses in like a matter of seconds, to be honest. Definitely under a minute for the whole fight. You can even do something similar to this for Buddy and Lucy, but it's the same thing. You just need one person proccing Vanguard, and other people running similar things. You pair this with things like Future Initiative buff, Overwatch, Sledgehammer, Opportunistic. It makes quick work of those bosses. And let's see what else is there. Oh, this one's specific to one-shotting Buddy and Lucy, and you definitely need some coordination for it. Your main weapons do not matter. This does though. It's Regulus, Gunslinger, everything has to have headshot damage. Fox's Paris, headshot damage. You're using 2 pieces of Araldi, headshot damage on your gloves. Backpack with Vigilance, headshot damage where you could put it. Punch Drunk, mod headshot damage. And if you take a look, you are looking to hit this mark, 260% headshot damage. Crit chance, if you can swing it, somewhere around 30% is decent, because sometimes there's a lot of luck that goes into pulling this off. This is the kind of build, there's a little bit more that goes into setting it up, but this is definitely something you would want if you run with like speedrunners, or if people are talking about like one-shots for Buddy and Lucy. Punch Drunk, Sacrifice, Gunslinger, Foxes, and then just 2 pieces of Araldi's gloves and backpack generally. So a lot of these pieces are locked in, so you're going to have to use the gloves and you're going to have to use a backpack. Your skills are only going to be depending on what the team might need. Could be an Achilles pulse, if you're not doing it, someone else is. I don't even know I have right foam on this. But yeah, so that's that one. And okay, now this is something that I came up with. I've been wanting to show this off for a while now. There's been a lot of things kind of floating around with this buff here and how it really works. I've seen this thing affect pretty much anything that got hit with a fire grenade, from solid bars to bosses, so the long and short of it is, right, check a fire grenade and you just make sure you have this equipped. When that grenade does damage, it applies that sledgehammer mark to it. And man, this buff is amazing. It's probably one of the strongest buffs that they added to the game. And it stacks with everything else in the game. Right now, so what I did was I wanted to use a lot of things. Right, Bloody Knuckles. It seems to kind of have some synergy there with it. Damaging an enemy with a grenade, or striking with a melee. It's going to give you 25% weapon damage. The melee damage isn't important because it's not the kind of build we're going for. So you're going to throw a grenade, right? You're going to give yourself 25% damage. You're going to put a mark on them that makes them take 40% more damage. You're rocking glass cannon, kind of in a pretty much standard DPS build. Now, here's another trick, right? Busy little bee. The reason they call it this, right? Because you really do have to be busy if you're shooting this. If you're in a fight where you can mark a whole bunch of targets, you know, you can, I'm not even sure what the limit is, right? Up to 10, yeah. So if you, it's kind of hard to find a fight like that, but even if you can do like 2 to 3 of them and you can mark something and then you switch to this, you know, after you've thrown your, you know, kind of time your fire grenade, you're gonna have, you know, 20, 30, well, the 20, 40, 60% extra weapon damage if you, you know, that's with 3, right? On top of, you know, another 25%. There's some amplified damage, you know, with this thing. So it's a lot of stuff working for you. Plus the survivalists, you know, damage the things with status effects on them. So this build can shred, add some really awesome, you know, buffs to the group if someone's not running Sledgehammer. You know, along with Vindictive if you're just running it on non-boss fights, you know. And, you know, Shock Trap, Riot Foam, whatever, Fire Sticky, whatever you want to use, but I would keep your Reviver Hive. You know, it's something to try out with. You know, like I said, it's definitely a busy kind of build, but you know, you'd really be running around most of the time with this, just tagging things, throwing grenades when you can get them. And then another thing too is, like, if you run out of fire grenades, all you have to do is switch specializations and then switch back, and you should get your fire grenades back. You know, there's some little tidbits and stuff like that, you know. And I finally got it all put together. This is referred to as the Tarmac Killer. When you first get up the ropes, you know, you're on the tarmac. You know, left side, right side are pretty much mirror images. A person with this kind of a build, you know, you would be splitting people up into different areas, right? So this person's job is to put the oxidizer to work. Now if you rush all the way forward, you know, left and right sides, left side there's a door where the ads will come out and the dogs will come out. On the right side there's like a little ledge above one of the ammo boxes. Drones keep coming, ads keep coming, the dogs will eventually come there. You know, throwing a stinger, leaving oxidizer clouds, it will just eat them up, and it will make the tarmac so fast. You know, while your other teammates are working on the heavies and shit over the sides. Some of the things that are important about this build though is Fox's Prayers with skill damage, because the oxidizer does benefit damage to targets out of cover, and then, you know, just the same thing with the contractors, but it's the 3 Empress, tech support, rock and glass cannon, and waveform. And, you know, my mods aren't in this, but it's duration and damage, you know, health, stinger damage, all that. Capacitor is a solid weapon choice. You know, I got the surge here too. You know, a lot of stuff. I could even overcharge myself if I needed to, just by using this. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You're just shooting clouds and try not to die, but you're gonna have someone watching your back when you go with this kind of build because you are super squishy. You know, your mod duration because you just want your clouds to last longer. You know, it's a very strong build for what it's meant to do. That's pretty much its main purpose. I mean, you could use this in, probably could use it in legendaries and, you know, other different missions and stuff, but like for raids and dark hours, this is the single purpose for it. And let's take a look and see what else I got here. You know, as far as raids go, I mean, this could be a raid build. I have not run it yet, but it is the Umbra Initiative set. It kind of reminds me of an old buff on knee pads called Patience, where if you were in cover, you'd be gaining, you know, your armor back, but it's a little tricky here. So as far as I know, the way this works is you start out, you want to get in cover. Now when you're in cover, you're going to build up stacks. right? You'll see these little icons, you know, switching. Sort of looks like the waveform thing, but almost looks like a little Batman symbol. After you've, you know, lost all your other stacks and gained these new ones, if you pop out a cover, you are going to shoot, you know, it's going to increase your RPM, so you're going to shoot faster, and you're going to have increased critical hit damage, right? Now any damage that you, not any damage, but the damage you take can be mitigated, like you just, you know, you sit back and cover, and the stacks that you have are going to go away, but it's going to heal your armor up. So it's a constant dance between staying in cover, let your buff charge up, pop out of cover, drill shit really hard. If you take damage, you hide back in cover, heal up. It just kind of goes back and forth. So there are definitely some drawbacks, because like in the raids, you might not always have the luxury to do that. A lot of things are pretty fast, and you can be able to kill shit fast. So that's why I was like, I tried a couple different ways. I tried it with the chest pieces and the backpacks to get those stacks up higher, but it just felt like it wasn't doing like any kind of damage. So I think glass cannon really makes a lot of sense here, because what, like I said, whatever damage, if you're smart about it, whatever damage you're taking, you know, it's just, it'll heal you back up. You know, and I chose to use, you know, Petrov one because I think that this set goes very well with this gun here, because it has perfect frenzy. Now it's something I do is I'll be in cover, you know, I'll shoot from cover like blind fire with this, and then I'm reloading. So after I reload, I'm going to gain this buff, then I'm going to pop out, and man, the RPMs I am sure are way over 1,000, and it just, it's like a bullet hose. Hits pretty decent, you know, especially in a raid. You're going to have other buffs and stuff. You know, I just like this because if ads get too close to you, this can buy you some time, stagger them. You know, you could use whatever you need to really for your second one, but still keep the Reviver Hive. I did a mix of, you know, crit damage and, well, I guess I just did really big crit damage because my stats, I was trying to get it close to, you know, 50 and over 150, just with that. Rocking the Fondness too, because it's got pretty high rate of flare. And then using this for the skill tier for the Reviver Hive trick. So this is something just to mess around with. It doesn't need to be built this way. You can try, you know, I could have switched my, I could have added another Providence piece, got my crit chance a little bit higher, but I wanted it more for more damage with this, because like I said, I just feel like this doesn't really do a lot of damage, but it could work, you know. I just kind of feel like it's built for like LMGs too, you know, anything with frenzy, rapid fire. You know, you could do with ARs, you know. I mean, you could run it with any weapon. I just think that these synergize probably the best with it, and it just seems like a lot of fun, you know. Pulling down the trigger, you could use Bullet King. Bullet King could be a lot of fun too with this, because it's just, you know, never really running out of bullets. And then this is not so much a raid build, but just my kind of take on ongoing directive. I've tried it with red, and it just felt like it didn't really do a whole lot. So I'm like, okay, well, let's try status effects, right? Because I mean, it's got it built in there. It's talking about status effects. It just seems like this could be a support build mostly. Now what I did is just put status effects, skill haste, status effect, and I rocked 2 pieces of Wyvern, you know, for skill damage, status effects. And what I chose to do was Creeping Death, because when you tag something with this burn, it's going to spread it, right? And then, you know, while those things are there, I got, you know, I'm rocking the Grudge, Scorpio. This, it doesn't matter what this is, but Perpetuation could be a really good thing. You can, you know, spread your status effects, shoot them, get those marks on, and just keep proccing, you know, the hollow point ammo. Now, I'm kind of running into some issues with this. There seems to be like a weird bug that after you get like hollow point ammo, sometimes it'll drain like your main clip of just regular ammo and you'll have no bullets. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it has happened, so it's just something to be kind of careful of. You know, because nothing in this game is working as intended, right? But this is just, you know, another idea. I use this in a lot of places. It's fun. It's not as fun as, like, you know, Eclipse Protocol, but that hollow point ammo, you know, you're giving your team another 20% amplified damage. So it just, you know, it depends on what you're going for in the raids and stuff and what buffs are there. It can be a pretty strong, you know, gear set. And, you know, if you're running statuses, it just makes sense to have something like this. You don't have to use a grudge. It could be any kind of weapon with vindictive on it, you know. And you know, just shock trap, a lot of, you know, crowd control and things like that. It's kind of what this would be good for. So there's some places it could be like the in-between fights, and maybe you give your teammates enough hollow point ammo to start out a fight and then switch to a different build. You know, it could, a lot of different ways you could use it. And then, okay, well, this is something I've been really trying to work on. It was just an idea I had. I'm like, how many buffs can I give to my team? So, started out with this new gear set they brought in, the Brazos, right? It's weird stuff on it, right? Skill haste, the skill tear in the middle, magazine size. I'm like, okay. But the perfect overclock buff is what I was really trying to take advantage of, because you don't really see a lot of people use it, but it is very strong, very strong. So what I try to do when I'm making builds is I look for a lot of synergies. You know, and if you take a look at this, right, you know, deployed skills, so you're going to want something that's going to sit on the ground. So it could have been a turret, you know, but I was going with a hive, right? Reduces reload speed, you know, makes their cooldowns come back quicker. So I'm like, you know what better than to run it with a booster hive? Now this thing gives crazy stuff, right? Weapon handling, you know, that pairs well with you know, reload speed. Basically turns your, you know, your weapon into a, like a laser. Now it's kind of weird, right? You see, I have 6 yellow tiers, but you can only really see 4 of them. That's because of the set bonus here. So I chose to run the named holster, right? It's got weapon damage into it. Now, I'm still kind of playing around with this build. I don't have all the pieces quite what I want, but you know, it's the Picaros and the Hermano. I'm really been farming forever trying to get crit chance, crit damage to replace skill damage and repair skills, because you know, like I got crit chance, crit damage, crit chance, crit damage. Proc and Overwatch, right? And I'm using, you know, Alps Mirakami just because it's kind of like an off heal. You know, if you need it, the Coyotes, rocking that stage left, you know, Scorpio, like this. So it's like, it's got Sledgehammer, it's got the Scorpio buff, Overclock, Overwatch, Booster Hive, can heal people. Plus, this thing will give the Faraday's cage too if it ever needed it, you know. I use this for Iron Horse. I think that this could do really well, you know, like depending on how your team's set up, but like it would do really well on the triplets in Iron Horse. Maybe Buddy and Lucy, depends on, you know, it depends on how you balance out your damage and stuff, because whoever's going to be getting the benefit of this, you know, they're definitely going to get ahead. So, but it does affect a lot of people, just depending on where you're setting up. But I use this in Iron Horse, first boss Lieutenant Gray, and you know how it says that this mark lasts like only 10 seconds? We were able to kill him in under, like the buff was still on him when he died. Like that's how fast we got through it, because of all the different things working together and just the amount of damage the team was pulling out. So I mean, these 3 pieces, they might be able to be something else. I just chose to kind of make it like a weird like heal DPS, because you could see, I mean, I'm still working on it, but the stats are almost there. if I get, you know, crit chance instead of headshot damage on a piece, you know, and the same thing here, I'm in a good spot for like where I need my crit hit and crit damage. And this, you know, it doesn't hit really hard, but it hits fast, and it's over 1,000,000 a bullet, so it's, you know, it's not totally worthless. And the amount of buffs that you give your team is insane here. So I've been playing around with it, just, you know, like I said, these are just some ideas. And yeah, that's my little rundown on some different, you know, Dark Hour builds. So I hope this helped, and you guys have a good, you know, rest of the year, and hope you guys stay healthy and well. Catch you later.